Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Politics 101. I am Tabitha Sarbahali, your guest host this evening. Dr. Hines is unable to be here this evening, as he mentioned, I think in his last program, his aunt passed, and I think today is the funeral. So he was unable to be able to host this evening. So I will be sitting in for him this evening, and we have a packed program and three guest with us this evening. First, let me introduce them. Mr. Paul Slow, who is the former chairman of the Police Service Commission. We know that there were some movements on that particular commission today, and we will get into that later in the program. Also with us this evening is Mr. Kadaki Amsterdam, who's a WPA executive member, and Mr. Nigel London, a political activist. None of these gentlemen are strangers to you, the audience, because they've been on the program before. So welcome, gentlemen. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. Thank you much.
Good evening. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm well, thanks.
Greetings to all of you. It is well. Thank you so much for asking, and I appreciate being here.
Awesome. Good to have you gentlemen here. As I said at the beginning, it's a packed program. We're going to start off with the events over the weekend, but a lot has happened over the last 12 hours, 24 hours, that we'll also get into those issues as well. As you would know, the program, the title for the program this evening is Lawlessness Rules Guyana. And we're going to start off with the Boderation. I'm not even too sure what's the actual name, the Boderation concert that happened over the weekend. I'm going to start on a light note to find out whether any of you gentlemen graced that particular concert over the weekend. Let's start with that question. Nobody wants to answer.
I did not.
Certainly not. I didn't.
I did not.
So I guess then we'll be talking from hearsay and not necessarily because we were there, and I guess the videos that were on social media. As you would know, there was a lot of conversation after that concert because of the gunfire that took place, and also allegations that a lot of robberies took place that evening. Mr. Slow, I saw that you wrote a letter in the newspaper indicating when you were part of the police, the Guyana Police Force, that you were integrally involved in creating a particular protocol when dealing with events such as these. So I'm going to start off with you. If you could just help us to understand what should take place when a concert of this nature is about to happen.
Good afternoon, good evening to you again and all my fellow participants, the viewing audience. They show the Boderation. I think they say it's Boderation, Baderation, but the Boderation concert, it was dubbed, which took place last Friday evening at the National Park. The lead or the main artist was Skank. I think that is the way it is pronounced. Kadaki might know better. I think he's more familiar with these dancehall at least. So Skank, I think, is the name. Now, Skank. I looked at the videos that were circulating immediately after, and was compelled to write this letter that you referred to earlier, because as I said in the letter, when I was the commander of Police Division, which includes Georgetown, I became commander there sometime in April 2004. The first show they had at the National Park, I can't remember who the performer was, but gunshots were fired at that show the night. And that, I learned, was the norm. When you had these shows in Georgetown, gunshots were fired. And in many cases, at the encouragement of the performing artist, and at particular stages, chemical agents in the form of mace were used. And it was discovered that these things were deliberately done to cause confusion. And during the ensuing confusion, people were robbed. Now, as a result of that, I was asked to put together a protocol. And the protocol was not only for Georgetown A Division, but a force protocol, a Guyana Police Force protocol to deal with security arrangements for similar events. And I did that. The protocol was put together, widely circulated, in the force, and to all the promoters. It gained lots of publicity. And as I indicated to in the letter, shortly thereafter, once that protocol was implemented, the gunshot and this type of lawlessness, the use of mace and all of those things ended. And one of the main feature in that protocol was that the divisional commander, in whose division the function was to be held, had primacy over the security arrangements. And let me explain that, because what happens, and this too was captured in the protocol, the organizers, the promoters had to make an application to the divisional commander for permission to host the show. The first thing that we said in that protocol, that you cannot advertise a show without first obtaining the approval of the divisional commander, because that was used to happen. So the divisional commander was reduced to a rubber stamp. It was a fait accompli. They just go ahead and they advertise these shows, and then later they brought in an application for you to rubber stamp. And I said, well, that was not going to happen any longer. The next thing that was mandated, that these organizers, the promoters, had to identify a security coordinator, someone who will be responsible on their behalf for security. And that would have been the person to liaise with the police in relation to security arrangement, number of policemen to be there, timing of the show, and all arrangements related to security. Now, while it was an initiative from me as a divisional commander, those things were discussed at the force administration level. So once the application was made to the divisional commander, at one of the management meetings, the senior management meetings as they were referred to at that time, that would come up, it would be on the agenda. And the reason for that is because when you have these big shows, none of the divisions, including the largest division, A Division Georgetown, had all the resources to properly police such a show, because you might require, and it would require, the use of the narcotics section. It might require the use of ranks coming out from the mounted branch, the K9 section, and therefore it was coordinated at force headquarters level. And once those things were done, as I indicated, that lawlessness ceased, and the promoters knew that. The promoters knew that they were not going to allow, they were not going to be allowed to do their own thing, so to speak. They had to comply with the protocol. And as I said, that thing went very well. So I was surprised. I was disappointed, more or less. But in regards to what I learned just before the show, I was not surprised at what transpired, because when I think it was on Wednesday, this show was on Friday night, I think the artist came in on Wednesday, and I saw his arrival on social media. So I wanted to know who this person was. So I reached out to find out who is this artist. And one of the first thing I was told, hey, once this man performed, especially a certain song, there are gonna be gunshots, there are gonna be chaos, there's gonna be mayhem, because the people who are attracted to that type of show, that is what is gonna happen. So when this thing occurred and we saw what happened there Saturday night, while I was disappointed, I was not surprised, because that was the word on the ground, that you're gonna have chaos, you're gonna have a mayhem because of the artists, and because of the type of performance, and because of the fact that one particular song, I think Kadaki read out some of the lyrics. I don't know if you could really call it lyrics, some of the lyrics the other day, and it calls on people to do this type of thing. So the protocol was there, and as I said in the piece that I wrote, I sure it may be some way, well, they might claim that it was destroyed in the fire breakdown, but all they have to do is get together and put together some type of protocol and make sure that incidents like these do not happen in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Slow. I don't know if any of the other two gentlemen would like to respond to anything that they heard, but I wanted to move on this particular issue. The fact that it was recognized on the ground, everybody knew that this was likely to happen based on the individual, based on the artist, based on the lyrics that he would normally sing, based on a particular song. It was known. It's not something that caught everybody off guard. So why it's kind of a facetious question. Why do you think that the Guyana Police Force did not take the necessary precautions to ensure that it did not happen?
You can't permit me if I can jump in here. Mr. Slow, let me say it was your protocol, the good guys protocol versus the bad guys protocol, right? Because the protocol you're talking about, you having established is so the police, assumably the good guys. The song that everybody was referring to is called Protocol, right?
Oh, well, yes, I learned that
Yes,
after, yes.
It is the bad boys protocol. And it has some advice to how to behave badly. Good. It tells you about rinse a Glock. When the street boys talk about rinsing the Glock, basically they're saying clean it out. Right? So
Yeah,
all
shoot
your
out,
nines
shoot.
or whatever is in there, you gotta empty. 100 strap. I work with no single single munition. I got 100 strap. I got 12 men out there ready to perform the operation. So I got 12 bad boys. So your protocol is recommending run some various sections of the force. Skank's protocol is recommending how his 12 guys should behave, etc. Right? I know the question you asked, Tabitha, but I want to put the question within the context of what we're talking about or what went on at protocol. Right? This song promotes drug use. Money get popped. Right? It promotes violence on the block. They want to run them black. It's like gang warfare because I want to take over their block. And so I got 12 men out there to perform the operation and so on. Good. Now, when you understand this, then you ought not to be surprised that mayhem will take place at the show because protocol will have to be followed. You got to rinse your Glock, right? As somebody said, you can't go to a gunman show and expect slingshots. So nobody should have been surprised that this happened. Having expected that, why the police didn't take actions to prevent it? Because forgive me for saying it if anybody gets emotionally disturbed. But we don't have a police force. We have a set of toy policemen and women from the commander right down. They are not doing policing work. They are taking political instructions. The promoters of this show are certainly aligned to the political party in government. As a matter of fact, some argue that they're front men and women for this government. And so if this government decides through its promoters that Skeng will come and Skeng will perform and nobody will bother Skeng, then the show has to go on. Right? If the Botheration, the Dunstock crew decides that protocol has to be followed, then no policeman dares to say that he is going to put systems in place to stop protocol from being followed. And it's as simple as that. This is the PPP show, and nobody interferes with the PPP show. The PPP gets what the PPP wants. And that is the bottom line. That's the easiest answer for that question. Why nothing was done to prevent it? Let me juxtapose. That was a show where you expected a lot of gun and bad behavior because it's a bad man show. The following evening or so, you had what they call it, Stink and Dirty, right? Stink and Dirty is carnival, bacchanal, whatever. But that is the show that they instituted protocol. And what they have to show you at the end of the night, 1 million scissors, right? But if they had used the same protocol at the Skeng show, they would have perhaps have 1 million Glocks to show you. Most of them perhaps unregistered and illegal. So it's not that they couldn't, but they didn't because the instructions basically were, you dare not touch it.
Yes, thank you, Kadaki. A lot could come out of what you just said, Mr. London. Would you
Thank
like
you.
to add?
Certainly. Thank you for having me here again. I must always express my gratitude, and to the other panelists. It's good to be with you all. I certainly didn't attend the show, but I also got knocked up sitting here all of what Mr. Slow was saying, so forgive me if I repeat any of it. But I would like to presume that the commander, if he would have been written to have permission granted for Hits and Jams to host this event, that he would be familiar with the nature of the artist who's coming here. That's the first thing. And if he's familiar with the nature of this person, I didn't hear Mr. Slow say that at any point in his protocol that he would have furnished that there is a mandate that everyone who applies for permission has to have it. And certain things, and this, please let me use your caveat here. I'm not speaking as a minister of the gospel, as a preacher, I'm speaking as a Guyanese and as a father. More so as an African man or one of African ancestry. Because permit me to go just for a few minutes or less deeper into, in my view, what this may be about. If you know that somebody is likely to say things that would incite certain behaviors, that is a security risk. And if the lyrics of the song incite certain behaviors, it is a potential risk. Therefore, they should not be allowed to perform in this country. We have people who are speaking to Ramson, for example, that little African boys need more role models. Like Ballers, who hosted the show, for example, Shanghai, who was one of them from Kashi from Shanghai. So they need more role models. So that's why, so let me bring it into the ethnic issue that I have, a cultural issue in our part. As one of African ancestry, Ramson is saying that people like Ballers and these men are good role models for our young African boys. Then you bring Skeng here. And Skeng shows all of us, based on people's behavior, what you can bring out of people based on Ballers' promotion. What I would like to report to the audience who are listening is that I have never heard of this behavior being tagged to those of East Indian descent. There's a common term now for us. I think it started more, or was made more popular with the guy from Anag, the attorney. I think Jonas. When he said those people of the street there are not Abdul supporters, they're dunce thugs. That's what he said. When members of parliament with Mace Matter, the PP Civic label you all as dunce or as thugs. Cherry wasn't a thug. And I'm deviating here. Then now you bring Skeng for Botheration show. And again, people now are more liberal. Even Africans are calling each other, these people, you dunce thugs. This has to be connected, and there has to be some purpose involved here for Charles Ramson to not come out today to condemn anyone being labeled as dunce thugs based on his associate Ballers and whoever the other one is, their promotion. And permit me if I'm speaking with passion because I'm extremely upset. I'm upset that people of my ancestry don't seem to get it. You are being labeled as something, and then on the other side, the intelligent ones, they're not thugs. They're free to operate. This has to stop. This has to be dealt with. And whoever granted permission for this pose a national risk to this country and to us.
Permit me to say two things here quickly. One, it is my belief as a foreign artist coming to this country to perform, that individual must have had a work permit. I think the Ministry of Home Affairs is responsible for work permits. So we must ask Robson Ben what investigations were done before giving this work permit to this individual. Likewise, it's a cultural matter. Ramson must say what steps they took to find out who is Skeng and what positive or negative he's going to bring to this country. Previously, I'm sure that there were other artists from the Caribbean that requested to come to Guyana to perform, and their presence were refused by previous administration. So like Apostle is saying, there must be a connection between the role modeling and what these folks would like to see out of bringing people like Skeng and the others.
Thank you, Kidaki, and all of the other panelists. I want to delve in a little bit more on what Kidaki would have said. He mentioned that the night before there was an event, and at that event, well, not Skanks protocol, but the Guyana Police Force protocol was actually utilized. And at the end of that, what we saw was that there were a lot of scissors and other things that they were able to confiscate, because they followed the whatever protocol was in place. And the fact is that they chose not to follow whatever protocol they used at that event, at this King's event. I think it is baffling, and it's also eye-opening, because it was a decision that somebody took that it was not necessary, given all that we all know about the performer and the artist, and what everybody was saying on the ground was likely to happen, given the content of the music the content of his music. So as we move into recognizing that, and also what Nigel London just said about the understanding the context of the person that has just arrived. Well, arrived, he had a show and he left. Yes, on one hand, they did not follow the Guyana Police Force protocol, and so what happened. They had to know that that was going to happen, and they were okay with it. But so it painted a light of a particular group of people as you know, there's a whole thing on all the Dunce Thugs and whatever. I'm not even sure where that name originated from. I wouldn't attempt to say I know where that name came from. But so now we have a negative stereotype that is now placed on a group of people who would listen to this type of music, and also the artists. But there's also another side of it. I was looking at the news today, looking at a lot of social media news, and it has gone far and wide, not just in Guyana, in the Caribbean and further afield in Great Britain, in the USA. A lot of the news websites have picked up on this, because Guyana is no longer just a little country in South America. It has implications on a lot of people because of so many people who are here for oil and other interests. And so making the decision to turn a blind eye to an event like this could also have negative implications for how people see and view the country. So how do you balance that with the PPP's agenda?
Let me jump in here to say, Kadaki mentioned earlier about the permission from the people at the force headquarters level. So the man who sits in the chair of the commissioner and those people who tell people that they're deputy commissioner operations and admin, they are the ones who have to be involved to provide the necessary resources to the division and to make sure that things are properly coordinated. So in this case, I would not blame only the divisional commander. This is a breakdown at the force headquarters, force administrative level. Because as I indicated to you before, once the person would have applied, I am not even sure if nowadays these people, especially given the persons who are promoting these shows, if they make any application for these shows. They just go ahead, they just come perhaps and tell the police they have the show, and it is dictated. I have been talking repeatedly about the political involvement and political interference in the management of the force, and I suspect it's because of that type of involvement and interference you can have a breakdown like this, because I'm aware that some of the senior men, the divisional commander and these people, will know what they have to do, but sometimes they are powerless in the face of the interference to do what they know is a professional thing. And that is a big part of the issue. And we made the point before. I can tell you of artists in the past who are prevented from coming because of the same nature. They go wrong and they promote drug use, they promote gun violence, and we know. So when the application was made, we tell straight up, no, this artist is not going to be allowed to come and to perform. So it has to start from there. It has to start from there. And I asked the question before, what happened to all the intelligence? What happened to all the monitoring? I, as a civilian, as a former police officer, knew from the investigations or the inquiries I made that you were likely to have violence. So what happened to them? And you look at social media, this thing was there on social media, that what was going to happen before it took place. I know that they have people monitoring this show. They have people monitoring Boxunion Morning Time, my show on Wednesday. So what are they did not monitor social media to see what was likely to happen at this show and make sure that proper arrangements were put in place. And I make bold to say that the reason no proper arrangement was put in place was because of the persons who organized the event, the promoters of the event, and the connections they have. Because I dare say that even if the police suspected there would have been violence, they would have been powerless to prevent the artist one from coming, and they would have been powerless to take some actions that would have been required to prevent what took place on Friday night.
Anyone else cares to respond to the question that I had initially asked?
Okay. Well, yes, certainly. What does the PPP care about the international image of Guyana? The PPP doesn't care about the international image of Guyana. The PPP, as far as they're concerned, has the international players either in their pockets or in their camp. The international folks who are responsible for the PPP being there, as long as the international folks get what they want out of Guyana and out of the PPP believes that all is well and all shall be well. This discussion is about lawlessness. I like to look at precedents. I like to go back in history. The PPP is known for lawlessness. The most lawless behavior in this country under any government would have been recorded under the PPP. The behavior of PPP parliamentarians in parliament. They look, when you look at road traffic, road accidents, for example, in this country, the most road carnage takes place under the PPP. And this is not playing politics. This is analyzing what happens in this country. The most gun violence, the most domestic violence, the most suicides take place under the PPP because they're government that allows lawlessness to happen. Because when they allow lawlessness to happen, very little attention is paid to what they themselves are doing that is lawless. The Constitution talks about meaningful consultation before the appointment of any of these commissions. This is law. This is not nobody's wishful thinking, it is law. Today we had at least 2 commissions being appointed, the members of 2 commissions being appointed. Did meaningful consultation take place? The PPP is the emblem of lawlessness, and they do not care whether or not Ghana looks good on the international scene. All they care about is that they're allowed to govern to their benefits and their friends' benefits. They have no interest in what Ghana looks like on the international scene. If you look at their international representation again, you will know that. A friend of mine sent me a photograph of the Guyana's embassy in the United States, some section of the United States. It's a rundown building being rented from one of their supporters. And that is supposed to represent part of the international image. So they just don't care.
Mr. London?
Yes, if I may. For some reason, my view of this whole matter, as you spoke to it, has something to do with how a group of people are going to be presented. I pay careful attention to social media, to the DPI presentations and so on, and the publications. You see that when they're presenting nowadays, the wealthy and the well-to-do and those who have got $600 million US involved in some contract, or $200 million here, $500 million involved, and contracts are being signed for road construction and so on. It is one major ethnic group, which happens to be of those of East Indian descent. Now you're seeing apparently a deliberate behavior on their part to say we're going to paint those of African ancestry, for the greater part, in a certain light. I am refusing to take this lightly because for me, and I'm entitled to my view, I am seeing this as if there is going to be on the international stage an image of the African who live in Guyana, that you people have to be careful about these because they are dunce thugs, they look at their behavior. They're reckless, they carry guns into places, they behave in this manner, but we are building the country. And we are the ones who are really involved in national development, and we have got the wealth to support that. That is the image I'm seeing here. Because it's being sold to us, there seems to be a perfect plan to tarnish the image of the African ancestors, and we have to deal with descendants, and we have to deal with this. We have to call it for what it is. Because I cannot see that Ramson can say that Ballers or 94.1 FM people, they are role models for the young black boys, as he said. And then they promote a show with Skeng. What does that tell you? He intends to paint a particular picture of who we are, while on the other side, the international community is seeing news about Guyana because they control the media as well, the PPP that is, for the greater part. And so out there is the image of these well-to-do people who are mainly of Indian ancestry. And what else do you have? Contracts being signed by these people. And what do you have now as an image on a large scale? Thugs on the other side. I do not see that as coincidental.
Thank you, dear Nigel. I want us to, before we get into what Kudaki raised, which is what happened today, I want to take what you're saying a bit further. The reality is, when you look on social media, there was a lot of discussion as to whether or not the music impacts violence, whether or not we should ban certain types of music. And then there's this back and forth discussion. Persons are saying, well, I listen to the music, but it doesn't impact me that way. And so how do we, given what Nigel has said as to how a group of people would be painted based on what happened this weekend, how do we have a conversation to help people to understand the effect of these actions at a concert, one, and whether or not concerts of this kind of nature should actually take place. And so it is an interesting conversation to have, because I could understand the majority of persons who would be at a concert like that would look like us. The artist looks like us. And so, and there's also the discussion as, whether the artist is just speaking to what he has been surrounded by his whole life. And so he is now, the artist imitating life. And so that is what he is bringing to the public for. So how do we have a discussion about this, given everything that we know that the PPP may be able to use it against an entire group of people? How do we start a conversation about this particular issue?
Well, I want to speak from a security perspective, because I think that is the area that I'm qualified to speak on. And what I would say is that, looking at it from a security perspective, you have to make careful assessment about the particular artists, because these people don't drop from the sky. They would have performed. The fact that the promoters bring them, the promoters would have done the research. The promoters know who they are, what they are, and therefore that is what influenced them to bring a particular artist. And I would want to think that the security forces to do a similar assessment, and if they recognize that a particular artist is likely to cause this type of problem, as I indicated earlier, then it's no, they are not going to be allowed to perform. I remember, again, as a commander, a particular group came, if you recall, some time ago, around 2005, I think it would have been, sometime around then, one of the major telephone companies had this concert at the National Park where tickets were given to people. I think it was a free concert. You had to job, well, not free really. but you hadn't to buy a ticket to get in. You would top up on your phone, and you got a ticket. And the group that was performing at songs where they were glorifying the use of marijuana, ganja. And at the time, we called the promoters in, and we caused them to know, remind them that marijuana was illegal in Guyana, and we are not going to allow any artist to come and perform and to promote and glorify the use of marijuana. If they were to do that, then we are going to stop the show. And things went well, because you see, you have to be proactive in these things. You can't just sit back and allow the politicians to run things. And then, because at the end of the day, despite all we have seen and all we are saying, when blame is to be cast, the security forces are going to be blamed. Nobody's going to blame, very few are going to blame the promoter. Very few will blame any politician, even though they might be the ones who are behind the activity. They are going to be blaming the security forces. So they are the ones who have to get up and make sure they do what is the professionally correct thing.
Yeah. And if I may, history is there to help us to make decisions. I believe with all of my heart. In Rwanda, when there was the issue between the Hutu and Tutsis, that's where the toy soldiers came about, these little boy soldiers. And after the war, they interviewed a few of them. And I would never forget what these young boys said, because it is applicable to us now in our country. They said that when they were captured, taken from their villages, they were intimidated, they were timid, they didn't want to do anything, they were just afraid. And the men who captured them did 4 things to them that turned them into killers. One, they pumped, and based on this discussion I'm saying it, they played a certain type of violent music all day, all night. That's all they heard. That was not by coincidence. And the one who captured them, some of them spoke about it. They ensured that the music spoke to violence and killing people, shooting people, doing all kinds of things. And it was also rap music for whatever reason. And the boys had began to play with their minds after a while. Then they gave them drugs. They give them substances that altered their behavior. Then they give them women. As young as they were, they used to capture women and force these young boys to have intercourse with them. Of course, after a while, the young boys began to like it, how it felt. And then they give them weapons. Now, if we have music in our society that is being played that encourages certain behaviors, then why are we saying that we should not prohibit it? Further to that, I had an encounter with NCN at one point when they took me off the air when I was on television, and they reminded me that it is in law. It is in law, they said, that you are not permitted to say certain things on the air or have it played on any radio station if it is lawless or lewd. And in that meeting with the manager and in Georgia, I said to him, "Are you telling me this?" And at that time, I was speaking against homosexuality. And I was not being lewd in any way. I said, however, you on National Communication Network play music videos that are most lewd. So there is, according to the National Broadcasting Act, certain laws that prohibit certain songs from being played in our radio station. But what do? They allow it because you're in a lawless society. So the discussion is, why not apply the law? Because the law is already there, or the protocols are there.
Protocol. Yes.
Not word again. Protocol.
Whether or not the artist should be banned. Let me tell you this. I'm a fan of the performing arts. Like you say, art imitates life. Artists have a right to earn a living. But with right comes responsibilities. And so artists also have a right to, what should I say? A responsibility to ensure what they put out there or what they create is marketable and acceptable to the society to which they intend to sell it. Yeah. Skeng has other songs that are not as violent, other songs that are not lewd, right? He has a number of these violence-laced songs as far as I'm concerned, these protocol type songs. but he has other songs which are not of that genre. And so it is my belief that if he wants to perform in Guyana, if the promoters want him to perform in Guyana, he should not be prevented from performing in Guyana, but he should be prevented from performing certain songs in Guyana or anywhere, as a matter of fact. That has to be a precondition of his work permit. And I keep mentioning work permit because I do not know if foreign artists can just walk into this country and go on stage and perform, right? A foreign artist is like a foreign national coming to work in this country. There must be work permit. There are rules governing the issuance of work permits. Those who are responsible for them must tell us whether or not they follow the protocols. But my point is, you can issue a work permit to Skeng. You can issue permission to the promoters to this show to go on. But there must be caveats. You cannot have this song performed because we've seen it done in other countries, or because of its popularity, we see the behavior of people. This is what is going to happen, and we don't want it under our watch. It's as simple as that. Also, if you were to allow it to be performed, we will not allow you to have your other shows.
Let me say this. Let me say this. In terms of preventing or banning what we want to say, there is a particular artist who had or still has, what used to play a very homophobic song. Certain place in Europe banned him. He was banned from going there because of that one song, and you know what I'm talking about. So yeah. There's nothing new. This is not something that will be unique to Guyana. People know who these artists are, and if they're going to come to promote certain things that are not desirable in your country, then you stop them from coming. You deal with it from the beginning. This person cannot come because let me say this. You refer to the fact that the promoters should advise. The promoters want them to play these things that are going to get the crowd worked up. That is what they are promoting. That is why he was brought. He wasn't brought here to sing any church songs or any sankeys or hymns. He was brought here because they knew that this is part of his repertoire, and this is what is going to get the crowd worked up. That is what they wanted, and that is what they got. And in terms of future activities, given the fact that these people are so supported, I believe the hands of the police will be tied. I mean, on Saturday, if you recall, they had already called together a meeting with the senior forces in the force and the promoter. That is just for show. That is just for show. Because if those people, and I understand, let me say it's just a show, because I understand that they have already planned to bring artists in July, sometime in July, around the 4th or so. So here it is again. I am sure that they haven't applied for and sought permission to bring these people in, but they've gone ahead and they're making plans, and because it's a fait accompli, they say that they're going to have this done, and because of the support and because of the backing, the police cannot say, well, no, this is not going to happen. So that is the situation, that is the reality of the situation that we are in. Lawlessness.
I want to press you guys a little more on this matter, because if it is that we are seeing that the lawlessness reigns once the PPP is in office, what it is that I'm hearing from you is what a lawful government would do. They would allow the police to do its work. The police would have proper protocols and they would follow them. And once they do, then certain artists won't be able to sing certain songs if they do come. And so we recognize that. But we're dealing with in 1 month we're still in May of 2022 with PPP in office, and we're recognizing right now that they're lawless people who really do not care about who comes. And two, if we are to agree with what Nigel London is saying, they're also interested in painting a particular picture of a group of people. And so anything that helps them to do that, they will facilitate. So given that, how do we then have a conversation? How do we then have a conversation recognizing that helping the same persons that they're going to paint a particular image of to understand the realities of the situation and how it is that they would also be affected by facilitating the PPP in its agenda.
Well, we're doing that now. This one way we can do it, and I applaud you for taking this step, Dr. Hines, because you need to have a public forum in which you can discuss this. Additionally, the leaders of the African community, we have to engage people in conversations across the board, or those of African descent. We have to speak to them. We have to let them know that there is a plan afoot. For example, I am unable to, maybe you can help me, but I haven't heard in a while, for the years I've been away and even when I returned, that this thing happened at any show when there was an East Indian artist on stage. Something, so we have to discuss this matter here. Why is it that when it comes to those of African descent, these things are happening to us, these images being painted, we can remind them that Africans are labeled in Guyana for the greater part as people who behave in a particular manner that is unacceptable in reference to societal norms. So we are responsible for how we are seen. If they want to accuse those of African ancestry, listen, you were this, let it be false. So the conversation that we're having now is an excellent way to begin this. And I believe in being forthright, upright, and honest with people. And I plan on doing so as often as I can to share with those of African ancestry. Listen, you have to understand who you are. You have to awaken to who you are and recognize that there's a plot afoot to destroy who you really are. Look at the movies, for example, and that's the kind of conversations we could have. And permit me, I'm a preacher, so maybe it's coming up at this point right here. But in all movies that I've seen, all of them, 99.99, Jesus is a white man. Why? Judas is a black man. Why? That's not coincidental. It is deliberate. Because they know the power of imagery. And we cannot lose ourselves as those of, we have to remember that the United Nations dedicated 10 years just for us to awaken and realize how we felt and how we've been treated. We should not lose ourselves like this. And we should not allow anybody to set us up to fall into this behavior. So I applaud you, ma'am, for this conversation. It is necessary. And this begins, and they should continue to have conversations of this nature. They should also be, if possible, I doubt they would be, but commentators on the radio, for example, on television, who speak to this behavior. That's my viewpoint. Because if we do not do this, we're in trouble.
Kudaki, you look as if you want us to say something.
Don't tell me that the promoters of these shows and the enablers do not know the impact, long, medium, and short term of these shows. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me that the folks who look like you and I, who are integral to promoting these shows and aiding the other the other means by which, quote unquote, the enemy is working to destroy, let me say, the humanity of people looking like you and I. Don't tell me they're not aware. They're quite aware. Let's talk about the promoter of the same moderation. One of their lead faces was heard on the same radio station defending the promotion of the show, defending the actions at the show. Don't tell me that they are not aware of the impact. But because of selfishness, they are willing participants. And quite frankly, I don't think that there is any amount of education that we could provide through these forums that will stop them from being selfish. They are close to, in this instance, the powers that be, and they tell themselves that they are protected and they're better off. This particular action for me is not as much race as it is class.
Right.
Right? We are up there. We can rub shoulders with the powers that be. We can get $189 million contract or whatever it is to build a Linden school. We can get to bring artists we like, when we like, how we like. We can get to go into communities and do what we want. We can bring illicit goods into this country and have the low lives run the blocks for us. And as long as we are going to enjoy those privileges, we will play along. Typical host Negro.
Thank you, Kadaki. I don't know if Mrs. Doe would like to add anything. If not, I'm going to
Go ahead. I think well said by Mr. London, well said by Kidaki. I fully support those views. They are not interested in, they're just interested in the bottom line. They have the necessary support, they have the necessary backings, and that is what it is. And that is why I made the point, despite what happened there Friday night and all the discovery on Saturday, they are going to be allowed to continue to bring whomever they want. And no security person can tell them not to do that, even when the protocols are implemented. Because remember, some of these protocols require the promoter to finance it. And at the end of the day, they are going to say, well, look, no, they can't afford to do that. Because I know I had meetings with these people when I was there as commander, these promoters, not only this group, but other promoters. And I remember at one meeting at the Ministry of Culture, Youth and Sport, when they complained about some of the protocols because it was costly and creating a picture that they weren't making money. So I had to tell them, if you're doing this as a business, are you not making money, then you should be out of the business, right? I say, I don't accept that because this is your business. And the fact that you come in so frequently to have these shows indicate that you are doing well, right? If you're not doing well, or if you're not doing well, perhaps it's a good front for something else. And that says they have to back off. So it's for them, it's the fact that they have the political support, and at the end of the day, they look at the bottom line. It's just about making money. They're not concerned if they destroy all the youths and the youths go there, use drugs, have to steal. Having said that, we did the analysis some time ago when I was there. Somebody mentioned it on social media not so long ago. We in the security services knew that when these shows were organized, the week before, 2 weeks before, you're going to have an increase in street and other robberies. The evidence was there. People were going to go and steal and rob people to get money to buy fancy clothes and to come to the show. So it's there. It is there.
Thank you.
Don't forget that the promoters also organize bank loans so that people can get decked out for these shows.
Oh yes. I remember when they have the show, whatever they call it, you can go to banks and you can get a loan. Imagine that. Imagine that is where we are. People can go to the bank to get a loan to come to the show and to deck out and to dress. That is where we are in this country. Unbelievable but true.
Thank you. A lot was said, but I need to segue into this other thing that happened today. Because this is a conversation, I believe, that it has so many facets and we can take it in so many angles because there are a lot of things that are happening at the same time. The social issues that lead to certain things happening, and the fact that the government is not really looking into assisting and helping persons come out of their social plight and their poverty plight and so on. So you put things in their face like little dangles that you'd be happy overnight, but then tomorrow you still have to deal with realities of life. So we could have conversations on this matter on so many different levels. But we're going to move on to what happened today with the president making a decision to basically to the Police Service Commission and the Integrity Service Commission. He decided that he was going to go ahead and what is the word? He Appointed, yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. He appointed persons to Police Service Commission and the Integrity Service Commission in the middle of what we would call consultations with the opposition leader. I don't know if you listened to what he said this afternoon, but when he spoke, I found it to be, I'm trying not to be harsh in my words, but I found it to be almost infantile in nature, because we're dealing with matters of nation, we're dealing with national matters of nation building, we're dealing with matters of trying to at least pretend to be professional and magnanimous, and what is required of somebody who is president of the country to want to reach out and across the aisle to the opposition leader. Let us try and make this thing work. And let us go as far as we can to see how we can make, and if we can make this particular consultation process work. But what I saw today was a decision made which shows that in spite of what you may want to do or what you may say, I'm in charge and I will do what I want, and I will make an excuse to make sure that I look good to some sections of the population. So I want to start off with you, Mr. Slow, on the Police Service Commission. The president has made a decision to appoint these persons. What impact do you think this is going to have on the commission itself and the police, given the fact that the opposition leader will now be most likely going to court on this particular issue?
Well, let me say this. The Constitution is clear about how those appointments are to be made. And from all indications, there was no consultation. So therefore, I would think that those appointments are unconstitutional and illegal. You indicated that it might end up in court. I hope it does, and I hope it does very, very, very soon. Because if you recall, there's a matter currently, or two matters, having to do with alleged violation of the Constitution. And I refer here to the suspension of the Police Service Commission, which I chaired. That was on the 16th of June last year. That matter is challenged. It matters in court. You would note that the judge, Justice Gino Prasad, ruled in favor of the commission. The matter was appealed by the Attorney General to the full court. The full court only last Wednesday ruled again in favor. There's also the issue with the appointment of the acting commissioner of police, which is also engaging the attention of the court. But these appointments, without following the spirit and the letter of the Constitution, are indeed worrying. I know all kinds of excuses are going to be made. For example, with the appointment of the acting commissioner, it was said that it was done following the doctrine of necessity. I suspect that some similar argument is going to be used this time around. But I made the point before, and I want to say again, that once these things start, you had, I don't know if there was any before, but on the 16th of June, clear violation of the Constitution. People came out, make a little noise, nothing. The appointment just about a month ago of the acting commissioner without the necessary constitutional requirements being followed, again, a little noise and nothing. And once you have that, these things are going to continue because people become emboldened. We can do whatever we want to do. And the process being as slow as it is, then these things are likely to continue. Because if you have one, you have two, you have three, you are going to have more. You're going to have more. And therefore, people, civil society, the legal people, they need to speak out. These matters need to be challenged and let the court decide whether they are constitutional or not. My view, because remember I was immediate past chairman of the Police Service Commission, I think I'm familiar with the process, consultation, and the records are there, consultation between the president and the opposition leader for the appointment of the chairman of the Police Service Commission, and the appointment and the swearing in, but now there's no consultation, and they went ahead with the appointment. So let's see where this will go. I hope that it is challenged. I hope it is challenged very soon, because I suspect, given what has transpired, any action by that body can be deemed to be ultra virus. The constitution can be challenged, just like the challenge against the acting commissioner. I read part of the filing said that any action he takes should be deemed as unconstitutional and ultra virus the constitution. So let's see where that will go.
Kidaki?
On that issue?
Yes, sir. We'll start on that issue.
Well, I did talk about the lawlessness of the PPP. Sometimes you have to preempt people. The US uses preemptive strikes to get rid of what they consider threats, terroristic threats, and so on. And sometimes you have to preempt. I believe it was a known fact or expected fact that the current administration would move to appoint these commissions, regardless of what the leader of the opposition thinks. Given the fact that the matter of the Police Service Commission is before the courts, I think somebody should have preempted this action and attempt to get an injunction or injunctive order, whatever they call it, to prevent any appointment to this service commission until the full and final determination of the courts on this particular service commission, the Police Service Commission. Because as it is right now, that matter is being deliberated as to the right or wrong of the government in dealing with it. And so I believe to appoint a new commission, while that matter is still in court, to some extent is flying in the face of the courts. That's one view I have. The other one is, I believe a lot of time the people who have responsibilities as given by their constituents for preventing certain things happening, drop the ball. Just this morning, I heard the leader of the opposition talking about the possibility that these matters will end up in court. And since the possibility exists that these matters will end up in court, quite frankly, you have seen the behavior of the PPP in the past. You have seen their recent behavior, the failure to stick to the commitment to meet within a week, the failure to provide certain kinds of information as requested, and the infantile, to use your word, responses from Guilty Share and the likes when they were confronted in this issue. It is my belief that the leader of the opposition or the office of the leader of the opposition should have already had a court matter prepared for filing when this happens. It happened this afternoon. Let me see what happens by tomorrow. We in this society, we are too reactive than proactive. The other thing is I don't know, because I'm not in the quote-unquote belly of the beast, what international diplomatic work is being done, right? But I believe I still am a student of politics, Guyana politics especially, but I've seen the PPP in the days of fighting Forbes Burnham utilize every single international connection that was available to make him look like the devil himself. I am not sure we are having that done, despite the fact that we're dealing with the devil itself.
Mr. London?
Thank you. Permit me, please, if I can read from News Source, because I follow the matter. I have a great interest in it. And my interest lies in the fact that and this is what brought me more to being a public, or being more public in reference to my utterances regarding how Guyana is governed. During elections 2020, I had a serious issue with how political leaders of this country were dealing with our constitution. And I said it then, I will say it now. I have a very great interest in how my country is governed. I'm sure that all of us do. I believe in good governance. Hence, I would speak to the administration, I speak to the opposition, I speak to civil society in general. I am a part of civil society now, in reference to my actions, because it's important for us to understand the purpose that we all serve in governing this country. Now, according to News Source, Ali is saying, in chartering this course, I'm quoting what he's saying, unfortunately so, in chartering this course of One Guyana, I guess that's the best he can say. See, his action is chartering a course of One Guyana. We will seek out from among us. We will seek out from among us. And I want to use the language clearly as for us to hear how this man is processing it. We will seek out from among us those who have the credentials and are willing and ready to serve at every level in moving our country forward. It will not and cannot be based on any other principle, but that of fairness, justice, integrity, and most of all, confidence. As president, I have the confidence in the people appointed today. Guyanese appointed today not only have skills, but they have the character to execute duties they've been called upon to execute. I don't believe, honestly speaking, I don't believe that the man who sits in the seat of president, because his sitting there is, I'm based on what we started with CCJ, is inconclusive. So I say he's sitting in the seat of president. I don't believe he processes before he speaks, or he's properly advised in order to speak. Because if in the atmosphere is evidence that there's supposed to be consultation, in the law it requires meaningful consultation, how could this man then say that we have chosen people? We, okay, let me just be improper in my English. Who we? We who? Who are you talking about? He is happy to announce that he is violating the spirit in itself of the Constitution by appointing people in a matter, as Kadaki said, that is before the court now, as Mrs. Ross alluded to. This matter, only this week, we heard that the matter has been ventilated, the full court ruled on that particular matter, and Ali, in the face of that, is saying that we have chosen these people to function. It tells me that he has no interest in abiding by that which is constitutional. Because, let us not forget, that him sitting in the seat of president, as far as I'm concerned, is also based on an unconstitutional act, called this garbage recount, as I call it. So he's accustomed to this. And as Mr. Slow is saying, the responses, and Kadaki is saying, the responses we're getting here from civil society, from Guyanese in general, and I must say, no slight to you, Ms. Haley, but the opposition, I have an issue with this. I cannot handle, because this is a Guyanese here, I can't handle this news conference, press release, while Ali and Jagger and others just do what they want in this country. And for you, my fellow Guyanese, you have a right to be awakened to the fact that these people don't care about law. They care about being dictators and doing what they want. And unless we stop it, it will get worse. So they are going ahead because we are not acting in a manner to say to them, now enough is enough, you have to stop. So I don't believe with all of my heart that Mr. Norton should speak to anything but any court before or without also adding that we shall be, or he and his supporters will be, on the street. Now, if they do that, I will come and stand with you all. Because there has to be a public response to this and a physical response, or they're not going to stop.
Thank you, Mr. London. And this, as you mentioned, it's not just the Police Service Commission, but they also appointed persons to the Integrity Service Commission. My question, I'm not sure that you can answer, but I will still raise it. Is why is it that why the rush? It was obvious based on what the opposition leader said today, when you look at the timeline of how things happened, that it was intentionally done. Mm-hmm. The letter came Friday afternoon after 4:30. They sent it at that particular time, hoping that nobody would be there to receive it, but so that they can say they were able to send it on Friday. They would have also most likely know that the opposition leader would have been out of town over the weekend, because that was not that wasn't a secret, it was public information. And so they knew that he was not going to be in town over the weekend. And so once they send a letter Friday afternoon, they can guarantee that he wouldn't get to the letter until sometime Sunday night, Monday morning. And so and the letter requested his presence on Monday at that particular to some meeting. And then so he was able on Monday to respond, saying that he can't make it based on what he said. And so what I am seeing was an intentional decision, one, to make sure that he doesn't get the letter in time to be able to show up on Monday to the meeting so that they can go ahead with their appointments. The question is, why the rush? And why do you believe they needed to rush through these two particular commissions?
Let me open the button here to say that in my view, it's just to prove a point that we can do what we want to do. Because you will note in terms of the rush, the Police Service Commission is comprised of 5 persons. Only 3 persons were sworn in. They say that one man is not available to be sworn in. He'll be sworn in at some other time. And of course, the other persons an ex officio, which has not been determined. So it's just to say that, look, we can make these appointments, and we are going to do it, and you do whatever you want to do. That is what it is to me, because I am trained to analyze and to investigate. I was exposed to that type of training. And when you look at the timeline, as it is claimed that the letter was sent, as you said before, 4-something in the afternoon. For a meeting, that's Friday afternoon, for a meeting on Monday. And on Tuesday, less than 24 hours when the meeting was scheduled to be held, appointments are made. So it was clear. It would be interesting to know when these persons were told that they had to come to be sworn in, and whether the letters were sent to them, and all of that, what type of preparation was done. I am sure that you will find that this thing was done long before. So it's just a show of power. We have the power, we will use it. You do whatever you want to do, challenge in court, make all the noise that you want. As the saying goes, we run things. And that is what is an attempt to show that we run things. You can do whatever you want to do. And that is what I want to, that is my feeling, having regards to all that transpired, the sequence of events, the dates and all the timings and all of that. We run things, you do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, and if I may, that is a perfect angle from which it can be viewed. I'm also of the view that there may be some appointments that will be rushed as well hereafter, especially in reference to the Police Service Commission. There may be some investigations because there may be some people who've been targeted here. So they say, okay, Integrity Commission, go after those. Because remember now, every person who is now serving, they would have been appointed by one man. So they're going to function at the behest of one man. And the rush seems to be that there's certain positions that have to be filled. Certain people may have to be removed and appointments have to be made. And so let's make it happen. More than that, the rush could also be based on the fact that they're saying, listen, disregard the opposition, they can't do anything, they wouldn't stop us in any way, so let's just go ahead and they'll go to court and it'll last for another 3 years, and by then there'll be another election. So what I would strongly suggest and strongly recommend is for us to be reminded of what Jagdeo said when, again, elections 2020. He said, if David Granger is ever sworn in, he will make Guyana, Jagdeo that is, ungovernable. I saw that as a treasonous statement. But he said it. I saw it as a statement that warranted him being arrested and dealt with. He was not. But he promised that he would make Guyana ungovernable. I am asking Mr. Norton to make that statement and act on it if possible, if you have the courage. Because if Jagdeo would threaten this and nothing was done to him, maybe you could say, okay, then if you keep going down this path, we will not have order or peace, whatever you want to say. And this may be the time. Not that you're inciting violence, but if Jagdeo could say them saying and reminding him and us of his own words, what about the opposition leader and others saying this is a time to arrest the situation, because this rush process, hopefully tomorrow there'll be some people standing outside of the office of the president protesting. Norton may be leading them and saying, now we're going to do things differently in Guyana from today, because there has to be a response to this rush process, lest there be appointments in the midst of the rush process. And from the Integrity Commission perspective, there may be investigations, as I've said, and probably some people will be forsook or something, who knows?
Kiraki?
Well, with all due respect to Mr. Slow, it's a show of force, it's a show of power, but I think it's more than that to some extent. I believe the PPP has its people, especially in the police hierarchy, that it needs to promote and solidify. And since Aubrey Norton, as leader of the opposition, is asking for certain credentials, documents, and so on, in relation to who are these people you're going to appoint to this commission. It might be an ointment in the a fly in the ointment. It might be a humbug to certain people being appointed. Because again, if we look at the appointment David Granger made of Justice Patterson, I think, back then, when it ended before the CCJ said, well, meaningful consultation means XYZ, right? And so if they see it as Aubrey Norton having the gumption, if I can say that, to humbug the appointment of certain persons to the Police Service Commission in this instance, and even to the Integrity Commission for whatever intents and purposes they are appointing the Integrity Commission, then I believe that is why they rush it. Let us appoint and instruct them to appoint. And so by the time we end up at the CCJ to challenge this appointment, a particular man might be confirmed as Commissioner of Police, a particular other man might be confirmed as Deputy Commissioner, etc., etc. And so we have solidified their positions so that they can serve us in those positions. That is my reading of it. I don't think it's just a power play. It is a power play, but a power play to what end? Right? I don't think they would just go there and play powerful just to see, well, because we can do it. Look at the passage of the NRF Act, the amendment to the NRF Act. They didn't just do it because they could do it. They do it to do eventually what they did, access what, 200 billion or whatever the figure is from the NRF. Today they shared out almost $1 billion to the fisher folk. Who are the fisher folk in this country for the greater part? So they didn't just show a hand of power to say, well, y'all do this act, we don't like it, we can change it. They did it so they can access the money to do as they wish with it. And that is what's happening. I am believing that they appointed these commissions today, albeit rushed without the proper consultation, because there's mischief afoot.
I agree with you. The appointment is just the first step or the first phase of what is ultimately intended to make to the commissions, or the commission, in this case, the Police Service Commission, to go ahead and to make appointment. That is why I think we all see that the legitimacy of this should be challenged as early as possible.
Thank you. I agree with what was said in terms of the rush that took place over the weekend into today. But something that was highlighted by Nigel just now as to what the president stated about One Guyana. It's ludicrous to be stating, if I could use that word, One Guyana in the sentence, and then stating that you decided you're going to appoint somebody. And then you then ask the question what this One Guyana means to whoever is actually making that particular statement and who exactly he is referring to. So as we wind down on the program this evening, I think that we have dealt a lot with the with Skeng and the social impact, and also how it is we can move forward on conversations such as those, in helping Guyanese young people primarily, but not only young people, to understand how these things have an impact, and the negative impact it can have on our society and on the people who are that look like us, that may be used to facilitate an agenda of the government. And also with this, obviously with this new the decision by the president today with the appointments. Now we of course just heard, well, we heard today as well, that the CCJ is going to be hearing. They had the case management today on the elections petitions issue, the appeal by Jack Dio on the appeals court's decision, to hear the petition, the issue that has to do with the petition. It's so much that is going on where that petition is concerned. And we see where that will go. July will be the date. And based on my reading of the issue, the person that was chairing the case management today basically said that it's something that should be dealt with in the strictest of time. And he gave everybody guarantee that they would look at the matter as early as possible. So we will wait to see what comes out of that case and where we go on the matter of the petition. So I want to thank you for coming on. I don't know if everyone has any last words before we close off.
Well, thank you so much. And for me, since you raised the matter of the petition, I would like to issue a challenge to the PPP Civic, to Nandalal, and to all those who said that the whole world saw, let the whole world see. Let's just tell CCJ we don't want to waste the time. We want to expose APNU FC because they're the ones who we said rigged. So let's not waste the court's time. We are willing to have the whole world see whatever APNU FC saw to present. I would love for them to be man enough to do that. And I've been asking them for quite a while, and they're yet to grant me that favor. But again, thank you so much for having me here. And I would love to see the day when we have such gumption and chutzpah from these men who said that elections were rigged by one side, but they don't want us to see what the rigging was all about. Thanks again.
Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening and to follow up from what Nigel just said. You know, it's interesting. Even the case that I referenced earlier with the suspension of the Police Service Commission, the Attorney General made it clear that the action of the president was constitutional. He did the correct thing, the legal thing, and yet he then moved to court and he's battling to make sure that the matter is not ventilated in court. So you have a situation where people are so confident that they did the correct thing, but they don't want these matters ventilated in court. So let's see where that will go. So I'm glad for the opportunity this evening. I have, as you can see, the background speaking out. Tomorrow at 11, I'm going to address some of these very issues. And because people need to know, these things need to be kept in the public domain so that people are aware of what is going on. These things should not be covered down and people not sure what is happening. So it should be kept alive. And I intend to keep these issues alive on every opportunity I get. And on my show, Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption and Incompetence, on Wednesday, tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So I am happy to be here with this panel this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Slow. Kidaki?
Well, certainly, thank you for having me. All I want to say is the time has come for the citizens of this country, the oppressed citizens of this country especially, those who are being neglected and sidelined and discriminated against, and their representatives, in particular the leader of the opposition and the opposition MPs and opposition party and so on, to adopt a different protocol to deal with the PPP. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you.
And
for
before you
using
speak,
the
sorry,
word
please forgive me. It'd be remiss of me if I did not congratulate you. We have missed Dr. Hines' presence, but we haven't missed his spirit. You certainly served very well in the nature in which he functions, and I must applaud you for doing an excellent job. I mean, to sit as one female among three men and to be as composed as you are, it speaks volumes. So thank you very much. You did well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for being a part of the panel this evening. I thought we had a very good discussion. We went through a number of the issues, and I'm hoping that the discussion that we had helped persons to think a little bit more about what is happening and how it is that we as a society can tackle these issues together. Because yes, we look to leaders and we expect our leaders to lead and to lead us well, but the leaders can only lead when people are also willing to follow and to be a part of whatever the leadership decides should be the action moving forward. So thank you, gentlemen, for being part of the panel this evening, and have a good evening. And to you, our viewers, thank you for being with us. It's almost the 8 o'clock hour. I had a good evening. I guess I haven't done this in a long while, but I think we did well this evening. And I'm hoping that the discussion that we had has helped you to see that, sometimes it's good to have fun. It's good to go out and party. It's good to sometimes ease the stress sometimes. But we also have to be very cognizant that we're living in a very politically charged atmosphere, and with a political party that would use anything and anything to try to ensure that they solidify their stance to maybe the detriment of the rest of the society. And so when we make decisions, we have to make decisions recognizing that fact. And so as I close out the show, I wish you well. I must say condolences to the Flew family in Mocha. I know the young lady buried her 3 children today. I cannot imagine what she is going through right now, but sincere condolences from everyone at Politics 101, from my family. And I know a lot of Guyanese too are sending their prayers so that the mom could, remain strong even through these trying times. So good evening, everyone. It's good to be here. I'll see you another night.
Politics is the heartbeat of a nation. It's not always pleasant, Politics can be very nasty, as we know. But politics is necessary, it's essential. Politics is about who gets what, when, and how. And although it's a nasty thing sometimes, we have to turn it into something that is pleasant. And on Politics 101, we try to do that. We try to engage the issues. We try to ask questions. More than that, we are mobilizing our people because, information and knowledge are essential to a functioning society, to a functioning democracy. Democracy is not just about elections and good governance, is also about an informed citizen, and inform the people. And that's what we do on Politics 101. We try to inform you, but we do so not by just giving raw information. We do so by a critical analysis. We ask questions. We locate the present in the past, and we locate the past in the present. We strive to turn Guyana into another kind of society. Our quest at independence is always freedom, and Politics 101 is about that freedom journey.